Hello everyone, I'm Black Marvin. I'm progressive psychedelic trance artist, I'm a professional sound designer, and also a teacher for electronic music production. Today I got a ultra special video. It's going to be a lot of discussion, it's going to be a lot of fun. But first, if you really want to know, you're curious and you want to know what's my most hated video, you can go to that time mark and you go straight at it. But before that, I really want to take some time to discuss some stuff concerning the channel. This video is partially to celebrate the 1,000 subscribers on the channel, so I want to say thank you to everyone. It's not an easy journey to get out of that 1,000 subscribers pit, and hopefully it should create somewhat of a virtuous cycle effect, which is the opposite of a vicious cycle. So it should technically, videos should recycle and get a better reach, but it was very hard to get out of that 1,000 subscribers. Also, the reason being is that the video I choose to do so, the video topics and everything, I want to keep the stuff on the channel educational and a bit of entertaining, and also a bit of content from my own releases, my own music. But the core of it is really sound design, educational tutorials, that kind of stuff. And I kind of refrain from certain video titles, or actually there's some videos I could do that would possibly get me more views and speed things up, but those are not the choices I made. Because like I said, that's the kind of content I want to keep having on the channel. I want that to be, I don't want it to be clickbaity. I don't want it to be, I just want it to be a pure educational and cover also the top tier tools, the top tier synths that I like, I enjoy, and I think that deserve the most attention. So for example, in order to get more views or videos that perform better, I could have done maybe something like,
your tech house drop sucks, here's why.
Or,
you've been managing your sub bass wrong. This is how pros do this instead.
Yeah, gotta love when video titles like insult you and then you're like, that's true, I suck, I should go check it out. Yeah, so I just wanted a bit of humor to demonstrate that I don't necessarily want to go into these zones to just have more subscribers for the sake of having more subscribers. I just want to keep sharing the content that I do, that I enjoy doing, and yeah, the tools that I love. So that's with the future of the channel. Aside from that, huge thank you, either if you're the 3rd subscriber and you've been there from the start, or if you just subscribe, or if you're not even subscribed yet but you're gonna subscribe right now. Anyway, I think that covers the topic of the future of the channel. I want to continue working on that. Also, a lot of content from Fractal Sounds. If you need some quality presets and samples and granular sources, you can go on fractalsounds.ca. There's some sweet quality high-end sounds for underground electronic music production. Now it's time to discuss my most hated video. It's been a while since I wanted to do that. My most hated video is, well, back in the days, I was doing videos on the Ghost Act channel. That was before I decided to start putting more energy and work on my own YouTube channel, which really makes sense when you think about it. And back in the days, at some point, I started using a new technique that honestly revolutionized my way of mixing and mastering. And I was very happy to share that with people of the internet. And it was not so well received, actually. Don't worry, I didn't receive any death threats or whatever, but I was just like kind of surprised, because to me, this technique, and I'm going to show you why and how, but it changed me. It changed my way of doing things, and the quality of my work after using that technique just went up so much. But these people, they're not wrong 100%, but I'll give you some perspective in order to understand like what's in their mind and why they're actually rejecting that technique. But Perspective in modern day production, it's kind of what you need to understand that. Also, you know, stay away from like humans, we like to have stuff like either 100% yes or 100% no, but there's like shades of stuff in between. And if you really want to have a deeper understanding of the audio engineering, there's a lot of stuff in between. You know, I've seen Luca Protolesi do some really unorthodox stuff, but that was so genius. So I think it's better to really understand how audio work rather than just having heard something and repeating that without even fully understanding why. So in the video, I talk about how putting a limiter on the master is a good technique and will help you with your mixing and mastering. And that's the part where people really get triggered. And like right now, just with that sentence, we're lacking some important perspective. I'll show you the perspective and now it's gonna make sense. Also, side note, in the video I talk about limiter, but lately, and I personally prefer even putting a maximizer and or a clipper. My favorite clippers are Lift 3 by Acoustica Audio and also Fire the Clip by Acoustica Audio. I actually spend a lot of time in Fire the Clip lately because of the true peak ceiling and also because of the sweep oversampling functions. But now let's get into the perspective. In order to get the correct perspective, we need to understand loudness and how it played also over time, and like modern loudness from before, and also loudness in between genres, because actually the limiter statement could be more relevant, let's say, for if you're mixing a rock band or a reggae band. Actually, that's very different than mixing psytrance, modern psytrance. But I say psytrance, but it could be very well drum and bass, dubstep and bass house, you know, those just loud electronic music, techno as well, you know, you get the point. So in order to get that loudness understanding a bit better, let's do a meditation. We're gonna meditate on that. So I want you to close your eyes. It's gonna be guided meditation, and yeah. So we're gonna cue the music. Let's meditate on that. So I want you to close your eyes, visualize that it's the year 1967. You're in the studio. There's your Neve console in front of you. You have your cigarette smoking up the whole room, and you've been tasked to mix and master the album of a new kid coming up on the block, and it's his name, Jimi Hendrix. We don't know him yet, but the music sure sounds promising. So when you're at the mastering stage for the album, you want to standardize all the music to standard, which is, well, apparently seems to be around -10 RMS. You don't even know what LUFS is because it's not been invented yet. It's only been invented in March 2011. So all you care about is standardize the music to a -10 RMS in the loud parts, and you know, you want obviously all the records to sound as good as possible and up to the standards of rock and roll at this day and age. When you're mixing and mastering process, you are not putting a maximizer or a clipper clipping heavily on the master, because, and a little side note here, of course there's no clipper or maximizer on the master because it's 1967, so all that was available to engineers at that time was hardware. So big difference in the relationship with loudness. As loud as it sounds, -10 RMS in 1967, you know, you don't need to try to work or compensate with any loudness. Actually, you want your mix to feel balanced, and you're gonna apply some limiting at the mastering stage only. And you know, that's how you do. Basically, that's how you do at this day and age. Now, that was a flashback from the past, 100% true. I guess my point is that, At this stage, people that say that you don't put any limiter on the master during the mixing and mastering process, and even the composition process, the track creation process, it makes more sense if you're coming from that perspective, the mixing a rock band, mixing or stuff that isn't loud. But now let's jump into the future, but also could be the present, but let's have fun and even go a bit further in the future. I still want you to have your eyes closed and visualize that you're at Boom Zora Festival in 2030. It's a very spiritual psytrance festival, and you're blasting a DJ set because DJs, people don't care if it's a live set or a DJ, so you're a DJ and you're blasting off some music. Just played a sweet track. I was banging loud, banging clean, and it's been mastered at -7 LUFS. So basically -7 LUFS with the momentary LUFS values in the loudest part. Let's say that it's the standard for that track. And then you're mixing a track into another track, you're a DJ, and the next track is also standardized to the same loudest level, right? So -7 LUFS, it's fairly loud, much louder than the Jimi Hendrix music, much louder than any rock band that you could mix and master. And yeah, you can just visualize that you're playing your DJ set and everybody had fun. Or we could do a visualization where actually you're in studio and you're learning mixing and mastering, and you're using a reference track, and the reference track is at -7 LUFS, momentary LUFS in the loudest point, and you're trying to reach that, and your music doesn't seem to handle the compression and the processing that you want to apply on it to get that freaking loudness right. It seems destructive. And whatever you're trying to do, it seems destructive on your music, right? So that's also a good visualization to have and to put those perspective. So the reason I'm explaining you these two perspectives is that loudness changed a lot over time, and the way we deal with loudness and the way we deal with it, but also the way we use it and the way we standardize our music today, and especially underground electronic music. Well, popular electronic music too, but especially the underground one. The stuff that is played on big room, big sound systems. Now, the old school statement that says that you shouldn't put any limiter on your master comes from that, that old reality where we didn't dealt with loudness the same way, and loudness didn't play the same role in our music production. Now, here is the tricky part. There's a lot of side notes that I have to explain for it to have the correct perspective. So first of all, when I say to have a maximizer or a limiter clipper on the master working heavily, if you're using the services of a mastering engineer and you need to send a pre-master, you will remove that maximizer. You will remove it because you want to send something clean for your mastering engineer. This technique is taking account that you're doing yourself the whole process from track creation up until stem mastering, and just you're doing everything yourself. That was a very important side note. And also another very important side note is that more loudness does not equal better. Like, it's really not that simple, especially if someone is not well trained and you're learning mixing and mastering and you're trying to make stuff loud, but you're doing it in a very destructive fashion. That's gonna be the subject for another video, like how you can obtain proper loudness without distracting too much, because that's really the name of the game. But yeah, I really want to say that it's not because it's louder than it's better, but in the mastering process, there's a lot of standardization that comes into play. So let's say you need to standardize your music. In my case, psytrance, but let's say you're doing drum and bass, you will want your drum and bass master to sound standardize at the same loudness and just standardize to whatever market you're trying to hit or whatever scene you're trying to hit, because that's just how it works. Let's say a DJ wants to play your music and he's playing it in his DJ set next to the big artist in your genre. It needs to sound as dope and as loud and as standardized than the rest of the music. So hopefully you're still following me here. I'm trying to nail that into a linear fashion, but there's a lot of stuff I need to mention for the perspective to work. So if we come back to our, the most hated video, it seems like these people that are kind of rejecting that idea are coming from, like I said, that mindset. It makes sense if you're mixing reggae to sort of stick to that old rule, but now I want to explain why it makes sense to do that on modern electronic music. So there's an issue that I lived through and that my students live through, and I know a lot of people go through that, and it's when you get your first mastering back from the mastering engineer. Since you're beginning and you're not used to have the correct you're not used to that heavy standardized loudness. You're used to listening to your track with some more quiet levels and just different. And whenever you receive back your first master, you're like, I like it, but at the same time, it's a different track. It's because you were not used to process your stuff as loud. In the end, you were working with something very quiet. And also, so that was a phenomenon when you would get back a master file from the mastering engineer. But on the other side, whenever I was trying to do, back in the days when I was learning mixing and mastering, I was trying to achieve, by myself, mixes and masters. And I was always running up to that problem. When I had my mix down all complete, with nothing on the master, and then I was applying the correct processing to get that master file to sound at the correct level, everything would fall apart. And also I would reach that some weird, I would kind of bust the saturation headroom. My track would start to sound distorted, oversaturated, and everything would fall apart from there. So I was always running into those issues, and I know I have students that run into the same issues. So the idea with that technique is, instead of making, your whole house of cards perfect and everything is perfect, and then you start to apply the processing and everything falls apart, the logic is if in the end heavy compression and heavy clipping is going to be applied at some point, either if it's by me or if it's by a mastering engineer, why can't I just mix everything and work everything with already that processing applied, so that when it's applied, it's not gonna make everything fall apart? It's kind of, why can't I take in account that processing earlier in the mixing process? And even sometimes I like to test stuff and apply some heavy clipping for fun on the sometimes during the creation phase, because it compensates for the processing that's going to be applied later. And when I started doing that, I actually was able to achieve louder mixes and louder masters at the end, but also it prevented me from reaching that oversaturation threshold. And I was also able to apply some more transparent limiting, some more transparent clipping, and some less destructive processing with only my voice and explaining the process behind that. But I already covered that for my community of students. I actually cover that on a kind of a regular basis whenever I tackle down some mixing and mastering subjects. But eventually I might give it a second go and and sort of redo that video, but on my channel with just updated techniques. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Still to this day, I'm still doing that technique. I just perfected it. Like I said, these days I will use, there's some stuff that I will put already on the master just at the moment I start my mixing stage, and it's the Shadow Hill mixing and mastering compressor. I also have some true iron saturation on the master, and I also have, of course, the Fire the clipper from Acoustica, and I'm gonna gain stage all that inside my master channel just to make sure it enters the proper level that I want. And then I'm gonna clip. It's like I'm really testing if everything can handle that. So I'm gonna have this sort of temporary master channel with these 3 plugins working heavily. I'm gonna mix my track accordingly. I'm gonna make some master stems out of that mixing project, and then I'm gonna save that master channel state. Gonna reopen those files in another project, gonna open up that master channel, and I'm gonna start the mastering process from there, from that channel state. And I'm gonna, of course, tweak stuff up, work also on the stem for stem mastering, and that's how I do stuff, pretty much. So I don't expect that after this video you will like master that technique, and no pun intended, but you will just understand everything that has been said. But I guess the point of this video, aside from celebrating 1,000 subscribers, was to just go back to that old video and bring maybe a bit of perspective, and do what you want. Do what you want. But I strongly suggest that you try that. In some ways, to me, it, like I said, to this day I still use that technique, and it really brought my work to some new horizons, and it's been years now. All right, that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully I didn't come off too bitter about it, but because I'm not, I just thought I just felt like I wanted to give a new perspective to that, because I just feel like people are missing out on this technique. And in mastering is it's a standardization process. So there's a destination to reach, there's a standard to reach. Whenever what you choose to reach that destination, in the end, it's kind of, which plugin you use, which bus compressor, which whatever, as long as you get there. And that's it. Yeah, that's the end of the discussion. Stay tuned. There's so much cool stuff coming up on the channel. It's kind of a new rebirth. 1,000 subscriber, new rebirth, new horizons. And yeah, I'm gonna see you in another video. Happy producing.